Sveta looked sadly out the window, watching her husband Oleg once again, heading to his mother's house. She felt lonely and forgotten in her own home. Oleg used to be quite different. Gentle, caring, spent all his free time with her. But since his mother had been widowed, everything had changed. Sveta sighed, remembering how it all began. They met at university and liked each other immediately. Oleg was gallant, surrounded her with attention. They traveled together and dreamed of a happy family life. When they decided to get married, his mother, Lydia Petrovna, was against it, thought that Sveta is not good enough for her son. But the lovers insisted on their own. The first years of marriage were happy. But after Oleg's father died, everything went wrong. Mother-in-law as if off the chain. She time and again called her son to his home, constantly calling him cranky and scandalized. Oleg, being an only child, uncomplainingly obeyed mom's quirks, throwing the family. Oleg began to talk to his mother for hours on the phone. And Sveta sat in the next room and waited for when, finally, her free husband and they could spend the evening together. Most of all, she was annoyed how Oleg behaved when talking to his mother. He seemed to turn into a different person, became compliant, weak-willed, ingratiating. And with his wife, spats happen more and more often because of this situation. On weekends, he went to his mother and stayed there late. Oleg, can you already stop sitting at mom's house? Barely holding back, asked Sveta. I missed you at home. But mom is all alone. She needs my support. Guiltily answered the husband. And I'm here how, not alone. Sveta flared up. You do not think about me at all. Yes, enough already jealous of my own mother. Angry Oleg. I'm torn between you, and you are all dissatisfied. At such times, Svetlana turned away so that her husband did not see her tears of resentment and frustration. She felt forgotten, unwanted, abandoned to the mercy of fate. Sveta tried to be understanding, because the mother-in-law is really hard now, but in the soul was accumulating frustration. I do not have the right to condemn her or forbid her husband to visit his own mother, thought to herself Sveta. Oleg is important now to support her morally, to be there for her until she recovers from the loss. Deep down, Sveta even felt guilty that she had to take Oleg away from his mother, to share his attention and care with her. But on the other hand, she realized that the situation in their family, this is not normal. It seemed to Svetlana that Oleg himself does not notice how he neglects the family, allows his mother to manipulate himself. One winter evening on his way home, Oleg slipped on the frozen sidewalk, fell and hurt his leg. It turned out to be a fracture, and the doctor prescribed him strict bed rest for several weeks. Lydia Petrovna immediately became worried and decided that she had to move in with her son to take care of him. Who better than a mother to take care of my boy? That Svetka will only spoil everything, she wailed. The mother-in-law was about to arrive the next day with her things, when suddenly the doorbell rang. Sveta stood on the doorstep with a large shopping bag. Hello, Lydia Petrovna. I've come to help you instead of Oleg, her sister-in-law said. He's in a cast now. He won't be able to visit you himself. But he asked me to come to you, to bring you some goodies and to see if you need any help. Sveta pulled out of her bag several containers of homemade food and baked goods, as well as a bag of groceries. I took a leave of absence from work to take care of Oleg at home, and I'm going to visit you and help in his place. So don't worry, I'll do everything, continued Sveta. Lydia Petrovna nodded confusedly, watching her daughter-in-law deftly wielding a mop and rags around the apartment. In fact, the woman did not need any help at home. She coped with everything perfectly well on her own. She even felt a little ashamed that she so often scolded and belittled Sveta. Now the girl was showing real care, kindness, and selflessness. The next day, Lydia Petrovna still decided to go to Oleg. She already thought better of her daughter-in-law. But it did not last long. It was worth it to cross the threshold of her son's house, as old habits and the desire to control the situation took over. What is it you sat down on? Why is Oleg lying without warm socks? Where did you put my old robe? Sveta heard a stream of criticism from her mother-in-law as soon as she took off her outer clothing. From amazement, she opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. The next few days, Lydia Petrovna, completely under herself, the household in her son's house. She criticized any actions of her daughter-in-law, rearranged things in her own way, ignored requests, and established her own rigid orders. Sveta tried not to react to the outbursts so as not to bring unnecessary excitement to Oleg, but her patience was gradually running out. She saw her husband in the presence of his mother, as if falling into childhood, losing hardness and self-confidence. The quarrels between the women became more and more frequent and bitter. One day, Svetlana's patience broke after another outburst of her mother-in-law. "You have never been a good hostess. Look how poor Oleshka neglected. He has stale linens, and you call yourself a wife. That's enough." Sveta flared up. "I'm tired of listening to your nagging, Lydia Petrovna. I love my husband and take care of him as best I can. What kind of care is that? Only I know what's best for my son." "Then stay with him alone." Sveta rushed to pack her things. "I'm going to my parents." "Sveta, where are you going?" Stunned Oleg. "Actually, I also have a mother, and now all my time I will spend at her place." Slammed the door, and Sveta left the house, not paying attention to the entreaties of her husband to stay. "Well, let her go," threw her mother-in-law after her. "You'll see. We'll come crawling back and we'll ask for forgiveness. And you think, forgive her or not?" Oleg only sighed heavily, not daring to argue with his mother. Lydia Petrovna at first rejoiced. Finally, this daughter-in-law will stop tangling underfoot. However, after a few days, the woman felt that her fervor to take care of her son disappeared. Living alone, she used to sit at home, doing nothing, and occasionally cook something simple. Oleg regularly brought fresh food, and now the woman had to fully serve not only herself, but also her son and his whims, and she had to go shopping. She felt like a teenage mother, but her strength was not what it had been in her youth. Lydia Petrovna suddenly had a strong desire to return to her apartment, to sit with a cup of tea without getting up from the sofa, to quietly review the series. It was much easier to communicate with her son on the phone than to fully serve him every day. She increasingly regretted that she drove Sveta and was left alone with Oleg. And Oleg realized that he let his mother too much, and now, as if on purpose, began to reproach her and fastidiously. Lydia Petrovna realized with horror that the son apparently decided to get even for all the years of her dictatorship in the family. For the first time, Lydia Petrovna regretted that so rudely and unfairly treated Sveta. After all, she turned out to be a wonderful wife and hostess who sincerely loved Oleg and created a home cozy for him. And my mother-in-law only spoiled everything with her toxic behavior. With these thoughts, Lydia Petrovna went to the phone. It was necessary to apologize to her sister-in-law and return her to the family. Gaining courage, she spoke into the phone. "Daughter, I was wrong. Forgive me, stupid. I will not be able to continue to cope with the household and care for Oleg. Please come home." After much persuasion and apologies, Sveta agreed to return. but put forward two conditions. First, Lydia Petrovna must completely stop interfering in their lives with Oleg and give unnecessary advice. And the second, Oleg must grow up, become firm and independently make decisions concerning the family, not going on about his mother. Husband and mother-in-law vowed to abide by these rules, and the family regained peace and harmony. Oleg became a more responsible and self-confident man. Lydia Petrovna, seeing how strongly her son and daughter-in-law love each other, stepped aside and stopped conflicts. She realized that after the death of her spouse, she felt a huge void in her life and tried to fill this vacuum with a relationship with her son, demanding the maximum of his time and attention. But in this way only strangled Oleg, destroying his own family. The woman got herself a companion, a cheerful puppy, which every day took her out for long walks. She began to meet more often with friends, go to the movies and theaters. Life again found colors and the positive emotions. Year after reconciliation, Sveta and Oleg had twins, charming babies. Mother-in-law happily took on some of the care of their upbringing, becoming a nanny for her grandchildren. She sincerely enjoyed this process, bathing the babies, singing lullabies to them. Lydia Petrovna realized that it is much more pleasant to give her love and attention at will than to demand it for herself. And the most important treasure in her life is her son's strong family, where she found a place not as a dictator but as a wise grandmother,